Hello, I'm Monique Bork with the Oregon Secretary of State's Office of Small Business Assistance. Today I'm talking to Martin Golden, Director of the Portland District Office of the Small Business Administration. We'll be talking about how the Small Business Administration can support small business owners with free business counseling, training, funding for starting and growing a business, and more. Thank you for meeting with me, Marty. Let's start with a general introduction to SBA and what it does.
Glad to be here today. So the SBA stands for the Small Business Administration, which is a federal agency founded in 1953, dedicated to helping small business owners pursue the American dream and for the advocacy of the nation's small business owner. It really is the nation's go-to resource and voice for small business. The SBA provides counseling, capital, and contracting expertise so businesses can confidently start, grow, expand, and recover. We know this is important because businesses drive the American economy, and small businesses create 2 out of every 3 net new jobs. Here in Oregon, about 80% of the state's private sector employers are small businesses.
What kind of resources do you offer? What kind of things do you do for someone who is starting a business?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Every business we know starts with a dream, and turning this dream into a reality is really something that requires confidence, stick-to-itiveness, knowledge, sometimes funding. And we want people to know that no matter where they are in their entrepreneurial journey, the SBA has their back. And so I break things down into where you are in a life cycle. Obviously, the very beginning is starting a business, and the SBA is here to support that entrepreneurship effort. And for that reason, we created something we call the Resource Partner Network. And that consists of various sets of counselors, including SCORE, which is a group of volunteers who help businesses think through business plans and get started, small business development centers who offer counseling and training, and the SBDCs are a joint venture between the SBA and the state of Oregon. We have 20 of those around the state of Oregon. And we also have a women's business center for entrepreneurs who are female who would like to get a woman's perspective in terms of starting a small business. And similarly, we have a Veterans Business Outreach Center for people who are veterans who also want to speak with other veterans who know something about starting businesses. So what all these folks have in common is the ability to offer free or low cost mentoring, counseling, and training so that you can start up and thrive really at all stages of business. They can help you create a business plan, conduct market research, analyze your competition, and maybe secure funding. In fact, one of the funding resources we have that's available for startup businesses is something we call the Microlender network. Microloans are used when businesses are not eligible for regular bank financing, and they're done by various microlenders that have lines of credit from the SBA to then in turn loan to qualified small businesses. We have 3 microlenders here in the Portland area. We have MISO, we have OWAMI, which is the Oregon Association of Minority Entrepreneurs. We have Mercy Corps Northwest. And whether you're looking for microlenders or other lenders or local assistance in any form, we want you to visit sba.gov/local-assistance. And again, that's sba.gov/local-assistance.
How about resources for growing a business?
That's so important because we know that a vast majority of the growth in jobs in the small business community is from businesses growing from 1 or 2 employees to 10 or 15 employees. So we want to help businesses get there. And so there's different ways to do that. We obviously have capital programs, which I'll talk about in a second. But something that some people don't know about is the fact that we provide counseling and help in terms of government contracting. The U.S. government is the largest purchaser of goods and services in the world. In fact, last year we purchased more than $100 billion from small businesses. And so federal contracting is often a way to diversify your income and to create additional revenue. If you want to talk about that, we can help you evaluate what your readiness is for government contracting. We can help you register as a government contractor, navigate federal contracting rules. Sometimes there are matchmaking opportunities that are available. And some businesses will qualify for small business set-aside programs. So if you want to talk to somebody about contracting, you can talk to the local Portland district office, and we have somebody who can help with that. On the funding side, we work with a lot of banks. Most of the banks in Oregon are actually SBA lenders. Also, we have 504 lenders that do loans on equipment and sometimes buildings. And so working with an SBA lender can often mean you'll get a loan that you might not get on your own. They offer competitive terms, lower down payments, and sometimes even counseling and education, especially when you're talking about microloans. If you want to access those, you should talk to your local lenders and ask about SBA lending. And if you're looking for a match, we also have a tool within the SBA called Lender Match. And you put in some information there, and it'll send that information out to people all across the country who might be interested in speaking with you about a loan. And if you want to access that, we have sba.gov/lender match. So again, that's sba.gov/lender match.
Do you have some advice for businesses who are in the process of trying to recover from the pandemic?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. That's actually not as well known with the SBA, although it's probably much better known in the last couple of years because we were so instrumental in COVID disaster programs. But we know that, disasters can happen all the time. And when they do, the SBA is here to pick up the pieces. So whether it's a hurricane in the Southeast or a tornado in the Midwest, or here in Oregon, we have more commonly drought disasters, sometimes winter storms, sometimes flooding disasters. And the SBA provides nationwide billions of dollars in low interest, long-term disaster loans directly to small businesses, homeowners, and renters who are located in declared disaster areas. And then again, turning to the pandemic, just in the last 2 years, the resources the SBA has been asked to manage have grown dramatically. Historically, SBA capital programs averaged about $40 billion annually. But over the last 2 years, that increased dramatically, something like 12 times. And we've done $1 trillion in loans and grants, and we've served millions of entrepreneurs. Just here in Oregon, that translated to more than 170,000 loans and grants totaling more than $14 billion in COVID relief. And that helped some of the state's 400,000 small businesses keep their doors open.
What are the 3 most important pieces of advice you would want to give a small business owner who is trying to access resources in SBA?
Well, that's a really good question. And I think no matter who you ask, people might have different ideas about what they should be and what order they should be in. But for me, I think number one would be to begin with a detailed plan. And that's another way of saying, you should have a good business plan. There's obviously numerous steps to starting a business, but it makes a lot of sense to kind of detail that out, to be looking at what you think the major drivers of your business are, and to plan for those. To help with that, the SBA has a 10-step plan to start a business and write a business plan. We have that on our website, but lots of folks have those. Our resource partners have those. Both the SCORE and the SBC network will have ideas about business plans. In fact, since I'm here talking to you today, the Oregon Secretary of State's office has a very similar plan. So there's lots of resources, but the important thing is to work on one of those, because the business plan really is the foundation of your business. And a good one can guide you through each stage of starting and managing your business. You'll use the business plan as a roadmap for how to structure, run, operate your business. It forces you to think through key elements of your business. They can also help you get funding and bring on new business partners. Whether it's an investor or a bank, they want to see that you're confident that you have a way to either make the investment good or to repay the bank. And so that business plan can be a tool to help you use to convince those folks that investing or giving you a loan is a smart choice. And I know that's a really hard thing to do. Creating a business plan is not something that most people have ever done before. But again, I want you to remember that we have good resource partners, such as the SCORE network, the SBC network, the Women's Business Center, the Veterans Business Outreach Center, that can help guide you through this critical step. The second thing would be to learn and build relationships and learn from other people in the marketplace. The small business community is very accepting, and so there's lots of people out there who are going to help you in that situation. Now, if you're going to be competing with somebody down the street, they might not be the best person to talk to, but if you talk to somebody who's a little further away, they might be very willing to tell you some of the mistakes they've made and to kind of have you avoid some of the pitfalls that other folks have made. In fact, I think it's a good idea. For instance, if you want to run a gym, maybe you should look to work for a gym for a little while so that you can see and learn from another owner what mistakes can be made and how you can avoid some of the things that will cost money up front. But don't be afraid to ask for help. You shouldn't try to reinvent the wheel. Most business ideas have been done thousands and thousands of times before. And again, remember that amongst our resource partners are many people that used to own small businesses that have gone through many of those same experiences and can offer valuable insights. Maybe number 3 is try to stay ahead of the curve. You want to not spend so much time operating your business that you're not looking outside at new things that are happening in your business industry. You want to learn new things, try to see where your technology is going or your business is going, what's going on with the industry, and don't be focused on the past. Remember, at one point, social media was something that was kind of not well understood, and frankly, many people thought, who cares? And now we know that social media is really critical on terms of being competitive and getting folks to come into your business. And so there are going to be other things that happen in the future, just like that. We just don't know what they are yet. So don't be afraid to change.
What's your perspective on how the pandemic has changed how small businesses operate?
During the pandemic, businesses had to innovate and create. People had to find new ways to serve their customers, to work and support their workers, to sustain the community. I think businesses already knew about the power of relationships, but particularly in times of uncertainty like that, how important it was to communicate with your employees, your vendors, other stakeholders. Really, the pandemic pushed a lifetime of business challenges into 1-2 year period. So I think what's important to say is that if you survive the last 2 years, you should have the confidence that you can handle anything. So as you're looking forward, also look back and take a moment, pat yourself on the back and take pride that you had the strength and creativity to come out on the other side. Really, I think if you survive the last 2 years, you can survive anything. And just remember, the SBA is here to help you.
Thank you, Marty. That's really encouraging. I want to come back to what you said about looking to the future and keeping up with changing conditions. Can you give me an example of how that might work?
We were talking about changing conditions and how industries move differently. And it's so important to be watching out for some of the things that can change. They can even be things that you're basing your, part of your business model on. I could think of an example, actually. I was talking to somebody once about operating gyms. And so we know there are lots of small gym operators out there that are part of franchises that compete with some of the big ones like 24-Hour Fitness and others like that. And at one point, one of the major advantages for small gyms is they tended to offer month-to-month contracts, and they didn't make people sign up for 9-month or 1-year contracts or 2-year contracts. And that was a staple of the large gym industry for a long time, was to get people to sign up for long contracts. So the smaller gym operators thought, well, if we don't make people sign those, that'll be a big advantage for us. But at some point, the big gyms actually stopped requiring that. All of a sudden, that was not a major competitive advantage anymore. And so these small gym operators had to think about, well, what can I offer now that is going to be an advantage, because I've lost one of the major advantages I had in terms of signing up members. That's just an example for the gym business, for instance. And I know there are other examples in the gym business. And there's examples like that in any other sector of the business world. People just have to realize that some of the assumptions they've made that they're basing their business model on may change, and they've got to have the flexibility of kind of seeing those coming and then trying to adapt to that.
Do you have some advice for small business owners who would like to apply for SBA loans? How do they make themselves as competitive as possible?
Sure. Thanks for the question. That's actually something that we get asked a lot. I think the first thing to do is to visit bankers, try to understand what it is they're looking for. And every institution, every banking institution out there is looking for something a little bit different. So some banks like restaurants, some banks don't like restaurants. You can go on and on like that. So, have an idea about what they're looking for. Try to understand things from the perspective of the bank and the loan officer that you're talking to. You want to try to make your business easy to understand. You want it to look like you've thought about it. That's where that business plan comes in handy. You want to be able to provide good numbers. So many people come into lending institutions and don't have a good handle on their numbers. They don't even have their numbers in terms of the QuickBooks. They don't know what their cash flow needs are. They don't know where they're making money, where they're not. And so the bank has to understand your business, and they have to have confidence that you're going to be able to repay that loan. I think one of the most important things you can do is to make sure your financials are in good shape, that they're correct, they're understandable. And again, this is where the resource partners, if you don't know how to do that yourself, you can find counselors that can help you do that. But that's going to go a long way in terms of helping your case when you're in front of a bank, is by having really solid numbers and ones that you understand, and that furthermore can show how you're going to repay that loan.
Terrific. That's really helpful. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this.